Oh, good times. Well, this is the Inglorious Pastords Christmas edition, coming to you live from Bruce's tiny. I need to move back because you look tiny today. It's the tiny Roger.
Bruce's fantasy to be the looming.
Wait. We're gonna move this forward just a little bit. I'm gonna try and knock over your microphone. There we go. That's so much better.
We try a new location.
We've got a treat. Now to be honest, we're at a new location because our
You're
normal
still a mile above.
Well, I'm sitting in an office chair.
To talk to you.
You're just such a tiny man.
Oh.
The internet was down at my office today and yesterday and part of last week. So we're at the tiny greenhouse in 35805, which Marlena, as you can see, has made a beautiful Christmas wonderland.
This chair is very comfortable.
It is comfortable.
It is comfortable.
It's actually my chair, but I thought I would do the Christ-like thing and serve you with the wake up, Raj.
Keep serving.
The comfy chair.
Keep serving. I like it. I like the sound of that.
I'm in the old office chair, which is good. So we're glad you're with us today. It's gonna be a great
new
day.
Setting like this, nothing could possibly go wrong. That's for sure.
I'm fairly sure
Especially with technology. We're not going to have any issues there, I'm sure.
Anything probably like that. So I think you were the one that told me this morning that the Broncos are officially eliminated from the playoffs. Apparently 10 losses is enough this early in the season. You're out. There's not even
moment of silence. Meanwhile, the Patriots division, every team has a winning record. Every team in the division has a winning record. Latest in the season, it's never happened in NFL history.
Well, has this ever happened? Where Tom Brady's division, everyone has a losing record.
That has happened before.
That has happened?
Well, I think someone...
because I think someone went to 7-9, went to the playoffs. Yeah.
I think it was pretty sure
that's pretty bad.
Washington or something. It was one of those years where I think the NFC East was...
How about those Commanders?
Really ugly.
Yeah. So the bad good news is that Russell Wilson had a great game.
His first really probably pretty decent game.
Yeah, bad news because he rushed a little, which was good. The bad news was in one of those rushes, he got clocked like Pat last week. Waiting at the
boom, he went down.
So definitely concussed.
A lot of concussions. It was just even the Monday night game, the Patriots. I mean, just players going down right but a lot of these concussion hits are. It feels like they're increasing.
Yeah. And I think we're all more aware of it, particularly after the whole
we're more tuned in
Tua early
after
in the
the
year.
Tua.
Gosh, we're like,
right.
That can't be good. He's gone on to play really well though, which is fascinating.
Yeah, no, he came back really well for him.
I do believe. I don't know what they did last week, but I do believe Joe Burrow's the real thing. Oh goodness.
Yes.
So far, so good on Fantastic Year.
Yep, they are playing well, and yes.
Speaking of college football, were you surprised that Hendon Hooker didn't make the top 4 for the Heisman? 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
I don't know.
Didn't even make the discussion.
Do you get docked because you get injured at the end of the season?
That's what someone wondered about that.
I don't. Right. I was shocked because he was like at one point
front runner.
He was the front runner.
Right.
He was the odds-on favorite, and it's not like his play dropped off. The team's defense
dropped because, like, even in the South Carolina game, if I remember correctly, he had 3 touchdowns.
No, he played right.
So it's not like just terrible game there on that front.
Right. But it was almost like after a bad Tennessee loss, his name disappeared.
Yeah, it was out of the running.
That's just
who won, by the way.
The USC quarterback.
They also have 2 losses.
Yes.
That's interesting.
No, the USC quarterback came in kind of a dark horse.
That's very dark horse, yeah.
Came in.
Okay.
In fact, he joked at the Heisman ceremony, he joked that he was the only of the 4 finalists that wasn't in the CFP, the college football player. He got a big laugh.
Yeah.
Because all the other... Anyway.
So I did hear yesterday or the day before or something like that.
Tell me what you heard, Bruce.
ESPN radio that they're about to add 12 more teams to the FBS. Like northern something, like northern Mississippi or something. I mean, it's just funny but everyone wants in on the money. Because here's the thing, there's so many bowls now. They're actually this year probably looking at potentially, I don't know how it ended up. This was before they announced all the bowls, but potentially 2 losing season teams could be in a bowl game. Now that was before the last game, so I can't remember how it's all worked out now. Okay. But I'm like, yeah, that would make more. We need more FBS teams. No one wants to see the 6 and 7 Rangers play the 6 and 7 underdogs. Because at that point, who's the underdog? No one even knows. Good times.
We love our football.
So we're coming back to what I wanted to talk about last week, Raj.
What did you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about Joy. Not your wife. No, that would be inappropriate.
You know what? That's just
that's where we draw the line on the Pastords.
You know what? We could just help be a kind of therapy for her, and we could help fix any issues or challenges or problems she has. Right? Discuss that on air. That'd be great.
I'm pretty sure we would crush her soul and not be any help at all. On that front,
not any help at all.
No, there's really nothing that's off limits. She's one
of the 2 people who listens to our podcast. Right. So
there's only 2 things that are off limits on the Pastords: Joy and Marlena. Those are the 2. We just don't go there. But if we did, here's what I So, no, I wanted to talk about joy as the quality of life that is oft confused with happiness, which is I think a little bit different in some ways. One of my friends last night, Bobby Gordon, shared happiness is often related to happenings. I'm like, oh, that's good.
Okay.
That's good. There's certain things that happen that we like and we feel happy. I felt a tremendous amount of happiness over the weekend riding my side-by-side. Zach was in his and I was in mine, and we were just all over the 53 acres.
Your side-by-side? What's a side-by-side?
A side-by-side is it's like an all-terrain vehicle that has like bench seats and big engines, and you just work around the farm. Or
is it like a big oversized golf cart?
Well, you know what State Farm labels it as, because I had to get it insured: a dune buggy.
Really?
It's categorized as a dune buggy.
It does look a little
in Alabama, it's one of the few states they're not street legal, which is fascinating.
I thought everything in Alabama was street legal.
I know, but you can use it as a farm equipment because you can like drive tractors on the road.
A skateboard is street legal in Alabama.
But we had so much
a moped
happiness. So it was rainy and wet, and there's so much water on the property because it's been raining for days and days and days. And I mean, we're just doing donuts and 4-wheel drifts and just flying around. I mean, creating new back roads and like there's one stream coming down.
Just raw.
We're just driving through it. I got stuck one time, had to put it in 4-wheel drive lock, got back out. That was great.
Did you get to use the winch?
No, we didn't have to use the winch. So none of us we didn't get stuck. We had a couple places where we could have gotten stuck.
I thought you said you did get stuck.
Well, but I unstuck.
It was not a winch stuck. It
when
was
I went into 4-wheel
a winch-worthy stuck.
So you got 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, and 4-wheel drive lock. 4-wheel drive lock means all 4 wheels are turning at the exact same speed at all times. So there's equal power all around. So even if this one's losing traction, doesn't matter. This one still has traction.
Interesting.
Whereas a normal 4-wheel drive, it adjusts based on. It's why
I didn't know. Okay.
If you 4-wheel lock and you make a turn in your yard, it'll destroy your yard because the inner wheels are turning slower and the outer wheels are turning faster. Anyway, it's just an interesting thing. But that was fun. But fun and happiness aren't necessarily joy.
Well, tell me what joy. I'm curious because I've heard pastors, speakers try to wrestle with, what is joy? Okay.
I'm not even.
Joy is not happiness, but what?
No,
what is joy?
I think it encompasses so many things. I can't give you one. I ought to go to, but between now and the keynote, I'll go to Webster and just see what it says. But it is sort of a quality of life. There's an emotional component to it.
Yep.
Because for me, this speaking from my experience, joy has a certain kind of contentment to it.
Yes, that was the word. When you say, I was thinking of, yes, there's a kind of built-in satisfaction.
Yeah, satisfaction.
Contentment
And
it's just funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and we started talking about that a little bit last week as we were finishing. But this idea of satisfaction, there is there's fulfillment that's part of joy. There
Because
is
fulfillment, because it's something that's deeper. It feels lasting. It's what's durable.
It transcends happiness in that sense,
Right? Because happiness feels very fleeting. Kind of happiness can come in and out. Joy seems to have more of a
enduring quality. And when you lose your joy, and I'll talk about this just from my experience, that losing of joy can also have an enduring quality, which is interesting, where it's hard to get it back. It's like I've been in a season this year, particularly the second half of the year, where it's been hard to find joy. I mean, which I can explain. I mean, but a lot of that was just circumstantial, very busy. Plus, we're moving between 3 different houses. Plus, we're fixing and repairing one house that we'd been, I was overwhelmed. And when I'm in that overwhelmed state, I don't feel content. I don't feel satisfied. I don't feel that. But the more I've thought about joy and having to do a talk on joy, I've started thinking about where joy is. And I think I might have even alluded to this last week. The really quick spiritual answer to, we find our joy in Jesus. That's all you have to say. But I realized, no, it's bigger than that. It is enjoying. So that's another word, joy. What does it mean to enjoy something? God has given us all things richly to enjoy. But it's enjoying things with Jesus. And so here's some of the things, and I'd love to get your input on. I've talked about this a lot.
Happy to give my input, Bruce. So glad you asked me.
I find joy with Jesus in certain places. So, for instance, when I drive onto the property at Hacienda del Sol, I drive onto the blacktop parking lot.
What is Hacienda
del Sol? Hacienda del Sol is the condominium we go to in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And we've been doing it for 40 years, over 40 years now. When I drive onto that property, my soul sighs with a sense of satisfaction and anticipation, which is part of joy too. We're looking forward to something. I know what I experience in New Smyrna Beach at Hacienda is there's community, there's laughter, there's joy, there's golf, there's beach, there's surfing, there's sun, there's just all these fun things.
I've observed for you, and it's what you're alluding to, because I've watched this with Bruce, because you are more tuned on this than I am.
Well,
but like
our listeners,
like the 2 or 3 weeks leading up to when New Smyrna is coming up.
Oh yeah.
There's this anticipatory joy that
I'm talking about it.
You're talking about it. That's almost like what's getting you through that week is
or that
2 more weeks from now.
2 more weeks, baby.
We're gonna pull into Hacienda.
We're gonna be out on the beach under our little canopies talking about important things and unimportant things.
So I enjoy Hacienda, but you have this kind of anticipatory.
Yeah, so that's true. It's optional for you, where it is not optional for me.
Yes.
Because there's some years you'll just say, yeah, I don't think we're going to go to Florida this year. And I have no place in my brain for that. I'm like, I don't understand. I do not understand what you're saying. No English. So but I'm also, and I've shared this, I'm also experiencing this weird joy at the farm, doing farming things. And so I realized part of joy is with God, with Jesus in a place. And so I started thinking about scripture. I'm talking about the Garden of Eden. It said that God prepared a garden in the east for them. He prepared it for them. He prepared a place for them and then for them to tend it.
Right.
So it's part of this joy of now, and I haven't thought about God's joy. I'm going to prepare a place for them that they're just going to love.
Here's what's fascinating to me about that. So God has always existed, massive mystery.
Yep.
God has always existed, a Father, Son, and Spirit, but a garden has not always existed.
Let me turn on my microphone.
Yeah, you just killed my joy.
Killed my joy. So yeah, garden has not always existed.
No, so this is what I'm thinking is, so I thought, okay, God made us to enter into the joy, into the relationship, but he added a new layer. When he made us, he also made a place. He made a garden. Isn't that fascinating? Now, I believe he intends to enjoy that as much as we do, but he makes a garden. And so the earliest picture is God almost like Christmas. I've got this gift for you. So he gives them the gift of each other. He's the gift. And then I've got this garden. Can you imagine the moment?
And Eve was a pretty special gift. Too.
Eve was a gift.
Not gonna lie. Marlena.
Whose middle name is Eve.
Mother of all living things. Yes, I love that. And they were to be with God. So they're enjoying the garden not apart from God,
right,
but with God. It was always established to be with God. The joy of the Lord, in that sense, is being with God. So then I started thinking. I mean, it's just all. So Jesus, before he leaves, what does he tell his disciples? He said, "You're gonna be sad, but I'm going." This is just a beautiful way to prepare a place for you,
so that
you can be with me.
With
me. Roger's been
Jesus
having
was better with his words.
A little bit of eggnog this morning. May or may not have been spiked. I don't know.
Oh,
good times.
That's not twoo.
I'm just having coffee. It's not smutch. And then he's preparing a place to be so that where I am, you can be with me. I'm like, so it's this place again with Jesus, but there's joy in place. And then even in Revelation 21, and I shared this at Blue Christmas because it's just become, the older I get, it's becoming one of my favorite passages. He said, this place will be a new heaven and a new earth. And I'm like, all right, so what we have now, the heavens and the earth are pretty doggone gorgeous, just nature. But I'm like, but the new heaven and new earth, I'm like, well, it ain't going to be less than.
Not going to be less than.
I was talking with Bobby last night because he was like, he felt weird about, they had gone to Jamaica to do mission work like in the first half of the week, and they were in tremendous poverty. Just people living in shanties, and it was very eye-opening. And then the second half of the week, they were at a resort. And he's at this resort, like on an island overlooking this blue lagoon. And he's just like, and he felt very conflicted. He started praying. And he felt like God told him, I want you to enjoy this. And it struck me, the reason God made islands is not because they're convenient to get to. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Something surrounded by, God has always been about beauty. And it's why we're drawn to beauty. And so there's a certain kind of joy that comes from place. Every time I go to the High Sierras, I experience joy. It's a place for me that just, gosh, I can't, you get out of the van or the vehicle, whatever you're traveling in, there's a pine scent in the air. The air is always cooler and drier, very different than what you have in the Southeast. And all of that together makes you go, oh gosh, this is going to be a great week. Just a week or however many days we're out there in the wilderness. The farm's doing that for me right now. But even as I'm looking forward to next year, I realize I'm going to be on, this is interesting, 4 continents next year. It's going to be a weird year. And I'm looking forward to these new places. So places can bring us joy. This is part of what I'm working on. These places with Jesus, not apart from, but with Jesus. Then I thought, there's people. So we got to with you and Joy last week for dinner. Marlena made this incredible chicken noodle soup. I know they're off limits, but it really was good. But all day I was looking forward to that, just to be with him. And I was like, oh, I'm experiencing anticipatory joy from being with him because there was work that I had to get done that day. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, hey, by 4:00, we're knocking off. We're getting ready for them to come over. We're going to straighten up the house. Monday night, we had Marie over all day Monday. I had to do a lot of busy work that I don't even like. Web stuff and getting ready for the 12 days of Christmas. Shameless plug for Born to Be Wild. But I'm like, hey, but she's leaving work at 4:30. So by 5, we're all be eating together. And then last night, another busy day yesterday, but we were getting with Bobby and Angie. And I realized much of the joy that I experience in life is God with people. It's these people that we're getting together, and I enjoy them.
Yeah.
I enjoy the way that we interact. I enjoy what we talk about. I enjoy the laughter because in all, whether it's you and Joy or Marie or Bobby and Angie, or Mark and Wendy, there's always laughter, which is part of that joy, happiness mix. So joy in place with Jesus, joy with people with Jesus as well. And then I realized there's joy in purpose. So I was thinking about when I pray.
You just had to alliterate it, didn't you?
I can't help myself. I'm a recovering pastor. We always
Pastor.
have P's.
Pastor, that starts with a P.
Pastor starts with a P. It does. There's joy in the pastords. There's a great joy in being a retired pastor, I can tell you that. But there's joy and purpose. So I realized, so I was looking at when I pray, and often when I'm just going through things I'm grateful for, you know what comes up as much or more than anything else? This will surprise some people. I'm so grateful for the opportunities God's given me. I just look at sometimes at my life and the things that I get to do ministry-wise, with people and speaking and even the hikes and teaching the way of Christ and counseling. I realize I'm great. And I realize it is purpose that brings me joy. In other words, when I start to lose joy, because when I start looking at things that rob us of joy at the same time, sometimes for me, it's as simple as when I lose that sense of purpose in what I'm doing. It's just work. It's hard. It's busy. It's hard work. But when I'm attached to it, but I'm having the opportunity every day in some way to teach the way of Christ to people, whether that's counseling or whether that's hiking somewhere, whether that's speaking somewhere. And then doggone if there wasn't another P that came last night with Bobby.
Oh, no.
This is the Christmas edition, so this is where it makes sense. You're going to love this. The angels come to the shepherds at night. They were all around the Christmas tree, I feel sure. And
oh, yes.
And the angel said, we come to bring you great tidings, good tidings of great
joy.
And I realized there's joy in proclamation. Did you see what I did there?
I thought you were going to say praise.
Oh, that's a fifth one. That's good. But I thought, isn't the gospel, isn't it good news? It is good tidings of great joy. The gospel is the ultimate proclamation of joy. And I'm like, when I lose my joy in the gospel? When I forget how amazing it is. When I forget how amazing God's grace is, his mercy is. And if I just sit in that for a while, I'm like, oh my gosh, it is good tidings of great joy. He came to die. I was reading Jesus in John 14, 13, I can't remember, somewhere in the book of John. But he's like, the hour has come, God be glorified. What should I pray? That you will save me from this hour? No, it was for this hour that I came. I'm like, that's the Christmas story. Easter and Christmas are intertwined in such a beauty. Anyway, I'm experiencing lots of joy now because I'm more aware of where I'm experiencing joy and what that joy is. And it's joy with Jesus. It's not just joy in Jesus, because that can sound very ethereal. But it's in all of the things that Jesus gives us and brings to us. In other words, even the joy in our relationship is we share Christ. We share that relationship.
Well, I think you're bleeding into
a bunch today.
What is the tension around joy, but a very, very important piece, because so many of the things that you have brought up to this point are connected to
peas.
It is. And everyone loves peas.
Yes, they do. Especially when Roger makes them. But everything's connected to.
Well, so many of the things that you have brought up so far have connected to things, places, people. So we're doing this with God. But the challenging part of joy, but I think it's the thing that's really critical, is it's something you can have without those. You can have without hacienda. You can have after the loss of a dear friend. You can have
while you're in prison, having been beaten and
right. You may be under a death sentence.
Yeah,
because we're touching on the question. To me, it's the question of the very important. Can someone serving a life sentence who's never going to see the outside of a prison have joy? Can someone who's depressed have joy? Can someone who has been abandoned by family or a spouse have joy? So we talk about you've talked rightly about the joy that comes. These things are people with Jesus. Where does joy come from without the people, without the place.
I don't know. I just lost my joy. Even as you're speaking. No, that's a tough one because I realize, okay, you can have joy in persecution. Jesus says when they treat you this way and they flog you and he says, jump for joy.
No, yeah, he says literally.
I'm like, okay, that is counterintuitive. So Roger is going to now further explain how we can have joy in these circumstances.
Remember him saying, count it all joy when you face all kinds of trials. At James 1, is it?
James 1.
I know this. Here's the thing. There is this place where you choose joy.
Oh, come on.
I'm not talking about the joy that comes over you. Even this word rejoice. Rejoice in the Lord always.
When things are going well.
There is this thing that where we think of happiness, and I think happiness can be related to something that overcomes you. We don't talk about like choosing happiness so much. It's like happiness comes from happenings. It comes from you're with people you love.
It was a best-selling
You're in
book
a place
that said happiness is a choice, but that's what did he know?
But he was probably talking more about.
I agree. No,
the closer
thing to joy.
Here's the thing. What that is reminding me is, and this is what I think. How do you find joy? How do you rejoice? Because it's easy enough to talk about. It is.
Yep.
Because I agree with everything you said at this point. I love enjoying God on a beach. I love enjoying God with a friend like you. But the Bible paints a picture. Here's Jesus who knows it's his last 24 hours before a brutal execution that's going to involve a taking on a sin, a thing that we can't even, a separation from the Father. Yep. He's got, and in those hours he's talking to his disciples, I'm going to give you joy. And it's joy that lasts. Here he's talking about joy.
And it will not be taken from you.
And it will not be taken from you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Something I quoted at Blue Christmas because of the theme, which was Jesus said, you will mourn, but the world will rejoice. And I thought that's Blue Christmas. You know, that Christmas is this time of rejoicing, but sometimes because of circumstances, we're mourning. And there's space for that. That's the whole idea behind Blue Christmas.
Yes.
But I realized, staying on the P track, there's joy in poverty and problems and persecution. And I'm not as inclined to talk about that. So I'm glad you did. Although I talk about it a great deal in the book I wrote years ago, which is it's built on that idea from James.
Right. Right. This is what makes joy resilient. Pardon that.
Durable.
Durable.
Yeah, I have PTSD every time you say resilient. Makes me think of previous Tennessee teams
coaches that
couldn't win, but they were terribly resilient.
Where the coach's favorite I
don't even know what that means now. It's like the word's lost its meaning.
But this is the thing with joy. In other words, if I am
the word resilient, I've looked it up, means you suck. That's it. Yeah. So if you're resilient, no, I'm just kidding. It's just Tennessee teams were very resilient, but they were poor. On we go.
No, it hits me then. Jesus is actually talking about joy you have all the time. It's not episodic. In other words, he's telling you all the time you may not be feeling joy. And when you're not feeling joy, you've got to choose joy. You've got to rejoice in. So how do you do that? That's the right question.
So join us next week as Roger gives this a lot of thought.
Well, isn't one of the beautiful gifts God gives us is start naming your blessings. Start counting what you have. Because in the darkness, I'm painful. Even now, there's certain things I don't have. There's certain losses. But isn't one of the gifts, one of the ways of rejoicing, enter into his gates with thanksgiving.
It's huge. There's two memes that I read this week that I just thought were great. One was, it's so important to be grateful for the things that you have, because it makes you less ungrateful for the things that you don't. In other words, one of the joy stealers, it really can be, we start reflecting on all the things that we don't have.
Yeah.
Versus reflecting on all the things that
and when we're really going,
that we do have. And that's what I say even about the proclamation. When I think when I reflect on the gospel, it does bring me joy. I'm like, it is too good to be true. Well, the other thing, and this is similar to what you said, but one of the things that brings us joy is memory. Now, I realize you don't have very much because you can't, but part of even why I anticipate Hacienda is because of memories from before, memories that bring us joy. And the older we get, let's face it, you're already in your 60s and I'm headed that way.
You're precipitously close.
We look back on certain things in our life with joy. We're like, that was a really great time. The other great meme that I saw this week, not on topic at all, but it was hilarious. It was every single body that's on Everest at one time was a highly driven, motivated person. So how about we all calm down a little bit? I thought that was so good. How about we all, what's a highly motivated individual? So how about we all calm down a little? I'm just like, that's terrible. That was so clever.
Come to the Pastords for morbid humor. We can start that regular. Our morbid joke of the week.
It's Deadpool Friday here on the Pastords.
What's your favorite zombie joke?
Yeah, so I think I think Paul and Silas, they're in prison, they've been flogged, it's all wrong, it's unjustified.
But what are they doing?
They're praising.
They're singing.
They're singing, and there's so much joy, singing so loudly. It's not like it's a calm little, we're happy and Jesus. They're singing so loudly. All the other prisoners here, it's just.
I know it doesn't begin with P, but music is very powerful.
C'est poem. Music's poetry, right? Poetry.
You just can't stop it.
I'm so good at this. It's like I can segue anything. I can alliterate anything. I am a pastor to the core.
No, so thanks, but praise. It's a great, and music being such a part of that is, I think even music is one of those things in the dark hour, can be a part of rejoicing. You've had the moments. I remember you talk even with this painful loss of the adopted daughter.
Yeah.
You had, and what music?
Yeah, we just put on, this is back when you had CD changers. We put on like 6 different CDs of just worship music and just listened for hours. And I've always told you, it's God didn't take away the pain in that moment. I think we were choosing something. But we experienced the presence of God in a profound way.
And here's where, so if you talk about literally practical ways to rejoice, giving thanks, singing, even when you don't feel like it, even the power, I think that the power of the guy who wrote It Is Well With My Soul, who had lost his 4 daughters, and
I literally told that story Friday night at Christmas, because we finished with It Was Well With My Soul. Finished that story.
Well, so anyway, but here he is choosing, when he says it's well with my soul, it's a choice.
Yeah,
he's deciding where to focus.
Because he's unhappy at the loss of his daughters.
Here's what I thought about with why joy is durable. This thought hit me. Maybe it's profound and pithy, or maybe it's problematic and pathetic.
Does profundity bring you joy, Roger?
Now, anything starting with a P brings me joy. Don't start going. All right, Pastor's out.
That's when we lost it there. Okay. Well, Christmas edition went down a whole different road today. Did not see that coming. Okay. Oh gosh.
You
better get to that profound thought really quick, because you're losing me now. Because I'm about to have unexplainable joy and laughter and
yeah. I don't think we're getting Bruce back, but I do.
I'm not thinking about it. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not thinking about it. Okay.
No, but I think the resiliency of joy comes up because what we do when we rejoice is we're choosing to see what we can't lose. When we're in whatever loss it is, again, whether it's prison, whatever kind of pain or loss, or and the significant things, I've tried to enter at times into the pain of certain people, and I just my life seems like sometimes feels like it has so little pain compared to others. But I realize what you can rejoice in is the things you can't lose. So I think about just the ache of a narrative about the world, that this world is all there is, that actually the cosmos is all, there's material things. So when you die, in other words, there are ultimate losses. But as followers of Jesus, I never lose the Lord. I never lose the giver of the good gifts. Now, he also says, heaven, literally, the next new heaven and earth is going to be physical.
Yep.
It's going to be beautiful, stunning beyond. But that's my joy, is the God behind it. I never lose him.
And that is where I'm finishing the talk. The last P is presence. Because in all those things, we're the presence of God.
Yeah.
So when I get into the second half of the talk, now that I've added, since I've talked to Roger today, where we talk about pain and problems and pestilence and persecution and finding joy in that, it is presence. It still comes down to presence. In other words, being on the beach somewhere without oh dear. He's having some joy.
Doug the dog is in the studio today.
He ripped up the monkey, and now beads have gone all over the floor. Well, I thought he already got the bead
been
bag
discovered.
Out. Oh, there's that.
Hey, Doug, you want to join us, buddy?
Nope.
He's happily destroying.
He's disemboweling the monkey. That's what he's doing right here. But
poor monkey.
But that is the thing we can never lose. That's the maybe the most important last words of Jesus, because I always tell people his last words weren't going to all the world and make disciples. His last words were, "And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of this world." I'm like, that's presence. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah. Our joy comes in that which we can never lose, because I can lose everything else.
Yeah,
I can lose everything else. I can lose my freedom. I can lose my life. I can lose my stuff.
You can lose your wife.
I can lose my wife. Yep. I can lose Hacienda. We almost lost it during the hurricane this year.
You could lose me.
That's terribly dark. I could lose Roger.
You've been setting the tone for dark.
All those bodies
Let's
on
joke
Everest.
About bodies on Everest.
Highly motivated individuals.
Mr. Hiker, that's going to cheer up Marlena.
Good.
You're going to be going to Everest.
Everest Base Camp 2024.
Base Camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, really bad timing on your jokes there.
But we can't lose the presence of God. Isn't that, when I think we have a lot of misunderstandings about what heaven is, because I'm not sure we're going to heaven in the sense that it was explained to me growing up, or at least as I assimilated it growing up. It's like a place that was, heaven. And I realized, no, it's just a new earth. It might be this same earth that's been, as Peter said, destroyed by fire and then recreated.
No, there are cues, there are hints it's a
volcanoes and lava. And
you think about
destroy it by fire in a hurry.
You think about our fascination with remodeling shows, where sometimes you have a
massive redo,
but you have this redo, and the former house had some beauty and
glory
to it.
Construction,
but it starts with, and I've wondered if there are hints. This idea of a new heaven, new earth, because I've even had hints of, I don't know, but this is speculative.
That's what I love speculating about.
I think about all the gorgeous corners of our tiny little planet. And we're not talking about other planets.
No.
We're not talking about any of but we're talking about just, I can't remotely get close to, I mean, I've been out of the country 2 or 3 times and there's beauty everywhere. I went to Ethiopia.
Everywhere. Yes.
And there was stunning beauty there. But all these places, and you've gone to these fascinating in Machu Picchu and going to go, I mean, you talk about 4 continents. There have been people who've been Israel, the Holy Land. There's these, again, stunning, beautiful places. But I wonder if part of the new heaven is it is the redo, because God originally made the universe. Okay. It got tainted. It got corrupted. The groaning the Bible talks about. What if it gets back to the original glory plus? God says, "Oh, I'm going to throw in some new extra fun stuff as well." So might I get to see at some point things on this earth? Anyway, I don't know, but whether that's the case or not, it's the God behind it. It is the thing I cannot. It's the person. It's so if at the core, yes, the core of our joy is the presence of the Lord. And in the dark moments where the blinders come on and all we can see is the darkness and all we can see is the losses, rejoicing in the Lord is seeing him, seeing what we don't lose, enjoying sitting with him, letting him hold us and comfort us. And that's where I can relate at some level to being able to have joy in some very hard places and times. Something that feels deeper than happiness, because happiness, again, it does. Happiness is episodic. It comes here and there, and it's a wonderful feeling. I love happiness.
I just had it a minute ago.
Boy, we had some happiness there, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
We haven't been that happy on the Pastords ever
in a long time. No, that is so. Roger just wrote the conclusion of that whole talk. It is, we choose joy in the really hard times when we recall what we can't lose. In other words, often sorrow and disappointment that comes from loss, different kinds of losses. Yes. But when you reflect on the thing that you can't lose, that is joy. It's also hope. So when I first started, I was like, there was a contentment I started with.
Yes.
But I realized there's also hope. In other words, part of our hope is that there will be joy in the future.
Yes.
There will be joy again. There will be rejoicing again.
Good word.
Even though there's sorrow lasts for a night, but there'll be rejoicing in the morning. Isn't that's a theme throughout Scripture?
Yes.
This idea that sorrow lasts for a night. But so there's darkness and then there's dawn.
So in the darkness, you have to see the light.
Yeah.
It's not there, but in the immediate, all you're feeling or sensing is the darkness. But rejoicing in the Lord seems to be, I have to pay attention to, I have to give thanks, I have to see God, I have to choose. It's that thing that I choose that. So at some level, joy can involve work, effort. This powerful, persistent reminder, rejoice, which is find the joy.
Again,
choose the joy.
Joy.
Yes. Again, I say,
joy,
rejoice again. Almost like he's got to reinforce that. The Apostle Paul
because it's counterintuitive in the hard times.
Right. But you look, one of the most powerful writings on joy in the Bible is the book of Philippians.
Right.
Written from
prison.
So here's somebody who's talking it, it's like someone's talking about joy, and it's a prison letter. A prison, he doesn't know if he's going to get out of that prison. As far as he knows, it's a life sentence.
And isn't that the same prison where he said, and I've learned this secret about being content?
Yes.
In plenty or in poverty.
Right.
And I'm like, it's hard to be content in either. And I was reading some kind of article,
Good point.
statistical thing, that the people who have more are the least content. In other words, it's hard to find contentment the more you have, because the more you have, it's like the more you want. Or
it's like it has a gravitational pull. The more you have, the more.
Right. And at the same time, if you have too little, if you're in poverty, it can create its own discontent. I don't have, and I realized, but the secret to this contentment is I have God in all of this. Whether I have much, whether I have, I mean, Paul was even alluding to sometimes I don't even have what I need.
Right.
I literally don't have what I need, but I found a way to be content.
Yeah.
That's that joy. Is that in Philippians?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
joy and contentment, there is a tie there. There is a.
It's funny. I was thinking the same thing
there.
as you're saying. They are very closely, and it's why the powerful words in that song, it is well with myself. That's contentment. It's choosing.
Right.
Because
it ain't well with my circumstances.
It ain't well with you're right. You've lost your daughters.
Yep.
You mean but it's well with my soul. There's this choice I've made. There's this thing I see. There's this entering in.
Because what I can't lose is my soul and the soul of my 4 daughters, and will be rejoined.
And I can't lose the God I was made for.
Yeah.
This ache isn't part of this. The ache of discontent. I can't get no satisfaction. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Isn't the ache, is the estrangement from God? It's still, even though I know the Lord, and I do, and I love Him, I have to keep choosing to stay with that, and because we still see through a glass darkly. It's still. All right, I guess we got to finish up with don't we have to have a pithy?
Here you go.
It has to have a P. This has to have a P in it.
It's no ploy, just choose joy. That's you got to admit that was good. It's no ploy, has the P in it. Just choose joy, using Roger's great, profound.
Pursue joy. Forget about happiness.
That is possibly the worst finish to a Pastords episode in the history of episodes. And we've had some bad ones, friends. We've had some bad ones. That was...
now let me try again. No, I can do better.
No, we're going to end it right there. End the stream.